Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. So tonight I want to share the third and final key to connecting with Allah. So the first key was to remember Allah by looking at nature and all around us and examining our own life and the life of this world. The second key was to seek Allah, so getting to know Him by reading dua, reading Quran, praying, thinking about our own lives. And today we have the third and final key to connecting with Allah in order to help us to overcome sadness. And that is to love Allah. That's the third key. And I wanted to open with a concept that you may have heard about. It's called the 5 love languages. This is by an author named Gary Chapman. It's a famous book that he wrote. And he talks about different people have different ways of showing and expressing love. And he says that it's just like, languages in general, that if you speak English and you're speaking to someone who doesn't speak English, they only speak Spanish, they're not going to necessarily understand what you're trying to tell them. You might be saying very nice things, but they're not going to hear it and they're not going to understand it completely. And so the idea of love languages is that some people speak some love languages and not others. So I'm going to go ahead and go over what they are and then give a few examples. And then I'm going to talk about how we can use those love languages in terms of our relationship with loving Allah. Okay? Cool. So the first love language is words of affirmation. And an example of this is compliments, acknowledgement, praise, letting someone know that they're doing something well, or that you appreciate something about them, or you appreciate how hard they're trying, those kinds of things. The second is quality time. So quality time is when you spend time with your undivided attention with that other person. So you may be doing a hobby, you may be doing activities, you may be talking, you may be playing a sport or doing anything else. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is that you're doing that with quality time. The third is acts of service. So maybe you're helping around the house, you're helping out around the house, you're maybe doing the dishes or doing the chores or building things or doing whatever it is that needs to be done, maybe watching the kids, those kinds of things. Those are called acts of service. The fourth is gifts. So, for example, small presents. Now, it's not necessarily very expensive gifts, but like if you go traveling somewhere, you'll bring back a postcard or you'll bring back a trinket from that place because you know that that person really loves gifts and that's their love language, so they appreciate receiving gifts. And the fifth is touch. So obviously physical contact, but not necessarily in a romantic sense, but just the holding hands, hugging, kissing, those kinds of things. So those are the 5 love languages according to Gary Chapman, and I want to explore with you how the dhikr and the ibadah, so the remembrance and the worship that we do of Allah, can connect us with Allah by allowing us to connect with Allah using those 5 love languages. So the first one is words of affirmation, and that one is pretty obvious, right? Dhikr, reading Quran. Doing hamd, dhikr is remembrance, hamd is praise of Allah. Doing tasbih, right, glorification of Allah. Also reading dua is a very beautiful way of giving Allah words of affirmation. When we thank Allah in our duas, when we ask of Him, when we tell Him how we are in need of Him, all of that is words of affirmation of Allah. And also da'wah, invitation to Islam, is a way of words of affirmation. Because if you love your religion and you love the faith that Allah has guided you to, you'll be happy to share it with other people. Okay, so the second love language is quality time. And quality time, again, dua, hamd and dhikr, but also salah. So prayer is quality time between us and Allah. And it's a great way to get connected, to spend time with Allah, to focus on Allah, and to connect with Allah. And of course, we all know the hadith that the prostration, when a servant of Allah, when his or her head is in the state of prostration, we are the closest to Allah. And so what better way to have quality time with Allah than in prostration and in salah, prayer. Okay. So the third is acts of service. And this is one of the most important acts of love languages that we can give to Allah. Because how do we give Allah anything? There's nothing that we can do for Him. but we can take care of his creation. So by serving humanity, by serving the animals, by serving nature, by taking care of our responsibilities, doing acts of kindness, doing acts of service for humanity, taking care of the orphans, taking care of the poor, all of these are ways of showing Allah acts of service and therefore our love for him. So the fourth love language is gifts. And of course, one of the easiest ways that we can give gifts to Allah is charity, paying zakat, paying khums. And also in terms of da'wah. Again, if we love Allah and we believe that Allah is valuable and has taught us valuable lessons and something of benefit, then we'll be happy to share it with other people and to give the gift of the love of Allah to others. And I'm sure you've all heard the hadith that even giving a smile is sadaqah. So if you can give nothing else, then give a smile to your fellow human being and even other creations, and give charity gifts in Allah through his creation. Okay, and the fifth one is touch. Now this is the hardest one because obviously we can't touch God. It doesn't happen. It's not real. We can't do that. But what we can do is we can meditate and reflect and ponder. That's the way that we can touch Allah and really physically connect and emotionally, spiritually connect with Allah. And there's a tradition of Ali ibn Abu Talib radiallahu an, who when he was asked by someone, he said, do you worship, do you see God? And he replied, do you think I worship a God I do not see? And the man looked perplexed, and the Imam Ali responded, he said, I do not see God with my eye, but with the eye of my heart. And so pondering, reflecting, meditating is the way that we can get in connection with Allah in a very special way. And these are all ways of loving Allah. Okay, so as we mentioned with acts of service is a way of loving Allah, and loving Allah's creation is one of the best ways to love him. So in showing our appreciation, we must take care of humanity. That's what we're called on earth to do. Loving Allah isn't just spending all day in the mosque and praying all day and all night and fasting all day and all night and not taking care of other people. And also, it's not about being stern and mean and rough and gruff with other people. That's not loving Allah, and that's not the way that Allah wishes to be loved. Of course, we pray and we fast, but we need to make sure that we're taking care of our relationships with other people. And in terms of loving, it's not only loving others, but loving our own self. And there's a famous hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ in which he says, one who knows his Lord, one who knows his self knows his Lord. Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabba. The one who knows his soul knows his Lord. And the same is true for love. One who loves his soul loves his Lord. Why? Because if we love ourselves because we know that Allah is the majestic creator who created us. And so in that way, we're able to love ourselves and love Allah and love his creation. Okay, so how is this going to help us to overcome sadness, you may ask? Well, there are 3 critical relationships that are all connected. The more you improve in one domain, the more you'll improve in the others. And those are the love of Allah, the love of our own soul, and the love of other people. We can't love other people more than we love ourselves, and we can't love ourselves more than we love Allah. As we increase in our love of Allah, we are able to love ourselves and other people better. And part of the cure for sadness and depression and other anxiety is to love ourselves as much as we are able. And to do that, we have to begin to elevate our ability to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so what's the next step? We have to remember that Allah is absolutely real. He is al-haq. And we have to connect with that idea that here we are connecting with Allah. He is the true reality, and He is the one that we should be giving all of our love. A lot of us treat our jobs or our families or all of these other worldly things with all of the importance of life. But the most important thing in the universe is Allah. So, what happens when you know He is the truth? Well, of course, you obey Him. Now, most of us you obey the people that you love. If you're, for example, if your child or your spouse or your parents like a particular thing, you're going to go out of your way to give it to them so that they're happy. And in the case of human beings, you can't obey them in everything. Sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they don't have the best ideas. Sometimes what they want is not possible. But Allah only asks of us that which is possible, and He only asks of us that which is best. And if we truly love Allah, we will do our best to obey Him. Now, one of the principles I really like to share is progress, not perfection. We don't want to beat ourselves up if we fall short in obeying Allah. But we do want to, of course, make repentance, turn back, and try our best to obey Him whenever we can. And again, that's our important factor, is to use judgment in understanding Allah's command and then following the best of that which we understand. Sometimes we learn that there's a better way to do something. That doesn't mean we have to blame ourselves about what we did in the past, but we can be content with where we are in that moment and continue to love Allah and obey Him in the best way that we can. And finally, to love Allah truly, we have to share Allah with other people around us. If you love soccer, if you love football, if you love basketball, if you love a certain hobby or your academic studies, or if you love your work, you'll tell everybody who will listen all about it. But how many times do we bring up Allah in our conversations with friends and families, those of our faith and those of other faiths? How often do we bring up Allah and find an excuse to talk about Allah to the people around us? If we truly love Allah, we will invite to Him and we will express our love to Him, not in a preachy and proselytizing way, but just in a way of love. And so in these ways, we can achieve the third key of connecting with Allah, which is to love Him. With that, I hope that you've benefited from this talk. And again, I've shared the link for the survey, which is for Muslims who are suffering from sadness, depression, anxiety, and or bipolar. And if you haven't had a chance yet to take that survey, please do take a moment to do so. And if you have taken it, and even if you haven't, please share it so that other people who could benefit may be able to get the help that they need. By taking the survey, you're contributing to the research that's helping us. It's completely confidential, and it'll help to provide service for those who need help. Also, there are resources that are available if you take that survey that can connect you with other techniques and other principles and ideas that can help you to live positively, overcome and rise above depression, and to live a life of happiness, joy, and peace. With that, I bid you adieu. Wa alaikum assalam. Peace be upon you.